Julia Train. This is about MROC.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming out. My name is Julia Train. I'm the Senior Manager slash Communications and Outreach at MROC, and I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I play an instrument. I studied classical piano since I was 3, however I'm not a musician. Hence why I'm in the industry. And I started out working for publishers at the CMRRA, which is the Canadian Musical Reproduction Rights Agency, and issuing online licenses to places like iTunes and all those online stores. And I moved into a department from there called the DNR, Do Not Represent. So I was a bit of a detective for the agency where I find missing publishers and get them their money for royalties that were sitting there and were missing a piece, or orphaned works, as they would call it, where there was no publisher. However, the song was generating revenue. Next thing I did was I worked for the Foundation Assisting Canadian Talent on Recording. I worked there for 3-4 years, worked in every department, ended up in the communication sides of things, and that's where I started speaking to people about FACTOR and its programs and funding through the government and the private broadcasters. And then Glenn Litwin brought me into MROC, and here I am. So I'm going to go through my presentation here, but I like to keep things very discussion, so please feel free to speak up if you have a question. Stop me if something's not making sense. I'd like to make this, I like to kind of do an exchange, so I can explain it in 15 minutes, because I work at it every day. However, this may be new to a lot of people, so please feel free, don't be shy, ask questions, and let's get started. So the MROC is the Musicians' Rights Organization Canada. It's a not-for-profit organization that distributes neighboring rights and private copying royalties to musician and vocalists. Sorry. Okay. MROC is the only collective in Canada that is governed by musicians for musicians. And what that means is our board of directors, although we have a wonderful partnership with CFM, we are the only collective that isn't a division of a union. That was decided because 50% of the membership wasn't what the Union 50 was. And what we also have that's unique is we have an advisory board that has musicians that are currently signed up to MROC receiving payments and various people in the industry. And what they do is they help us with the day-to-day operations because they're receiving the payments, because they are receiving the statements. They're out there, they're performing, they come back and they tell me, well, this isn't working. The statement is too confusing, this is taking too long, can we do this? So it's a great opportunity for us to always have those who are collecting royalties from us, clients, and of course our board of directors is made up of, there's a seat for the CFM, the Guild, and OXM. So again, we're all musicians working for musicians.
Does everybody know what OXM is? OXM? It's the Organization of Canadian Symphony Musicians. So they collect slightly differently, but that's what OXM is.
Slide, please. So essentially, we've been around since 1998. It was set up within the CFM, and it was the MNRR at the time. And so when you sign up to MROC, we can go as far back as 1998 to collect your royalties. But if you've recorded on music as far back as 50 years, you need to submit that, because of course any recording as far back as 50 years has been broadcast or can be broadcast. So it's important that anything you've played on, whether it's session work, whether it's with a band, whether it's a hand clap that you did for a friend, that's getting radio airplay, you're entitled to a piece of that. Slide, please. So this is really important because everyone says, well, I'm signed up to SOCAN, I'm signed up to Connect Music or SOPRAC. You know, I'm covered, but you're not. These days, musicians, especially there's a lot of musicians that are doing everything themselves. I mean, the landscape of the industry's changed quite a bit. So you have musicians that they are their own publishers and songwriters and/or composers. They're performing on the recordings, And they own the masters. So they're their own record label, they're their own, they're musicians and they're songwriters. So that creates 3 different revenue streams that anyone that's doing all 3 pieces. MROC pays the musicians and vocalists private copying and neighboring rights for their performance on these recordings. Connect Music Licensing, they pay labels and or anyone who owns their masters of the master recording their share of neighboring rights. So it's split 50-50 from resound. They give half to the record labels and or the makers and 50% to the musicians / performers. SOCAN, of course, pays up the songwriters and music publishers for performances on their songs. And essentially what that means is SOCAN have the tariffs and that they were established before us. That's why it's called the neighboring right. Because those tariffs that were established, we neighbor to them to pay the musicians for their performance. Slide. And here's a little diagram of how it works. Resound, of course, collects the neighboring rights side, and they also collect all the logs and information from broadcasters and issue licenses to businesses when they're using recorded music. For background, CPCC, of course, deals with private copying, and it's split up to the recording or to the performers through 3 collectives in Canada: MROC, Artistique in Quebec, and AfterRax. And if you own your own masters, then you would contact Connect Music Licensing and SOPROC. And so that's just a little diagram of how neighboring rights is paid out. Slide, please. So the tariffs that we have, or where the stream of revenue comes from, is from CBC radio, commercial radio stations, pay audio stations, satellite radio, for their broadcasts of these sound recordings. And royalties are also collected from businesses when they perform, in public performances. So, for example, fitness centers, stores, if you have a DJ that's playing music in a wedding hall, all these, they have to get licenses from Resound, like SOCAN, in order to do that. They pay into the licenses. And if you want any more information on the specifics on these tariffs and things like that, Resound is always updating their website.
Pay audio stations.
Pay audio is, for example, on TV you have the Galaxy stations, you go into the 300s or whatever.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's those, that's pay audio. And next slide, please. So this is just, this is what the tariffs currently that we have with MROC. We don't have live performance tariffs or anything for TV and film, however. We're working on it. And tariff number 8 is the newest one. So that's next one. So I'm going to talk next about eligibility. So with neighboring rights, we in order for you to be, it doesn't matter what your nationality is, it really depends on where the recording was made. So, for example, the Rome Convention, every territory in Europe and Canada are pretty much signed up to the thing. The United States is not. So, for example, if you are a Canadian artist, even though you're Canadian, and an American record label decides to pay and record your album in the United States, even though you're Canadian, you cannot collect neighboring rights. However, if you do travel to the United States and you record, but it's a Canadian-owned company, or you've paid for it yourself as a Canadian, it is eligible. Also, if you bring musicians here to record in Canada on your recording, they are eligible for neighboring rights and can also sign up and collect their thing. Also, if you record in Europe, it's eligible.
Like the U.S. never signed the Rome Agreement. They're the only Western democracy that did. And the AFM has been trying for years to get legislation through. What's the hurdle? They're paying their songwriters. The terrestrial radio, the broadcasters there, they have a very strong lobbying. Like they're really strong at it. There's a number of, and during Canadian Music Week this year, they brought in a gentleman who is leading a campaign, and it's with artists and celebrities, and it's called I Respect Music. It's a hashtag on Twitter, if you look at it. And you have a lot of these musicians that do that, and they hold up the sign, I Respect Music, and that's based on Aretha Franklin. And she recorded a song called Respect. Yep. Neither her or the record label they've never seen a dime for it. Oh, that's terrible.
Because she didn't write it, but she did perform it, and she's the musician you associate with that song. If it had been done in Canada, it'd be different. She'd be getting neighboring rights. So that's what they're fighting for, is the fact that, you know, all those session musicians that played on there, everyone that did that recording played on that recording that's been broadcast over and over again, they haven't seen a dime. However, what's great about Canada and Europe is the fact that we do have this right established. However, in the United States, they do have sound exchange, so they're signed on to something called the Belgian Convention, and that's streaming and online broadcast. And MROC, through Resound, has a deal, so when you sign up to MROC, you're automatically signed up for Resound. So if there's any streaming, and they stream all the radio stations there online, the Canadian ones. So there's money available for Canadians through that stream too, and we've already tapped into it to make it nice and easy. That once you enter your repertoire into our database, we'll look all over the world for your royalties. Slide, please. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is private copying, because private copying is a little different than neighboring rights, whereas only Canadians can collect private copying funds. And they're collected on blank audio media sold in Canada, so blank CDs and mini discs. The Copyright Board, we don't have anything for iPads and all those devices. And the distribution on this it's based on the mix of radio airplay and album sales. So again, this is a right that's only for the Canadian musicians that sign up. And the recording must be Canadian for this. Next slide. And finally, we've made the process very, very easy to sign up. Of course, we have assignment form or registration forms there. If you're more comfortable, you can do everything online. And what we found is, especially because a lot of people didn't know about MROC and have had long careers in music and looking at submitting your repertoire, and I just have a sample there of what information we're looking for, repertoire sheets. However, what we've done is we want to make it easier for musicians to sign up. So we just want you to sign up and contact us. We have 5 staff members that are dedicated to working with musicians, to working through the process. If all you have are liner notes, if all you have is just a list on Excel, if it's written up, we'll take any information you have to get the ball rolling with this. We want to make it as easy as possible. Also, those who don't, if you're speaking in French, we do have someone that speaks French that can work with you. We have someone specifically that works with the symphonies and orchestras on their so the most important thing is you contact us. Signing up is really important, but getting your repertoire in is just as important, because we can't pay you if we don't know what you played on. But of course, the forms may seem daunting and things like that, and if it is and you just can't remember what you played on, give us a call. We'll take you through the process.
Actually, to that point, there are, I know, I'm pretty sure I speak for more than speaks from this group. There are some recordings that I played on that, back in this time.
Yeah.
And like, how do we go about finding out about that?
Well, you just have to let us know what you played on, and we can. Someone might have submitted. The thing is, especially if there's 10 performers on one track, they might have already named you because they remembered. You are maybe in the system as unassigned. So when we put you in right away, we may get a list where we have your name, there, and we'll come back to you and say, can you confirm these performances? So someone might have already done the work for you. That's why it's important also to sign up, because your share might be just sitting there waiting for you to get it. But we do a lot. Like whenever we get new repertoire, that's the other thing that we do, and that's why I'm out here, is we do a lot of work of finding these musicians. Go on Facebook, Google, contact them, tell them they have money waiting. But it's a big job, so whenever you can, you never know. If you've been working for a long time, your name may already be in a database just saying unassigned, and we've been looking for you.
Is that a searchable thing on the website?
No, we don't have that available. It'd be, yeah. So these are some of the next slide, please. So these are some of the priorities that we have for 2014 is to ensure the current assigners. Now we have, through the locals all over Canada. A lot of people signed up years and years and years ago and never submitted their repertoire, so we're currently going through that and making sure everyone's gotten their repertoire and they've been properly matched. and of course getting the new and emerging artists. The minute they come out of the recordings, they have this when everything's fresh in their mind from the studio to sign up, and also signing legacy recording artists and their estates, and making sure that the families get the royalties they're owed from way back.
How do they get royalties from a defunct record company such as MCA?
The record label?
Yeah.
It's the musicians. We don't, you mean in terms of...
Like if they're paying royalties to, for airplay, like the record company gets, gets a royalty as well. How would you guys collect from,
Well,
from a
we
company that
collect on the
doesn't exist
musician
anymore?
side, so we don't deal with the labels at all. We only take care of the musicians. So for example, if it really doesn't matter what agreement you had, with the recording company or where it's gone and things like that. If you played on that recording, we've gone as far as, going to biographers for certain recordings and producers. We'll make sure that you get your money for your share. If that's your performance on there and if you did that, you're in the line.
Is this strictly just Canada though, or if you have a worldwide release?
If you have a worldwide, well, this is strictly for Canada, and also if, for example, we also have agreements with other countries. So if it's been played in other countries and you're signed up with us, we will go and get them for all those territories, like mainly Europe and through Sound Exchange.
Asia, Japan.
There is one with Japan that we're working on. The other thing is to let you know, Sound Exchange pays out feature performers, and feature performers, for example, the leads, the core group, they pay up them. However, if you're a session musician, you would sign up with us, and we collect from something called the SAG After Fund, and that's for session musicians. So there's royalties out there, and that's the end. Oh, and again, next slide. As I went through, we have agreements with collective management organizations from around the world, including most notably the UK and United States through Resound. I think I went into that. Next slide. Oh, next one, sorry.
Back or forward?
Just press the space bar.
Space bar.
Perfect. And that's everything. Any questions?
I hope there are lots of questions.
What about iTunes? Where there's, let's say somebody steals your material and is selling it on iTunes. How do you guys monitor that? Because I've gone to SOCAN, and they basically said, well, you're on your own, get a lawyer. And I contacted the company in the States, and they told me the same thing.
Well, in terms of iTunes, I mean that they have their own deals with the major labels. So
well, all you have to do is get the material, get it mastered through one of their mastering houses, and you're allowed to put it on iTunes.
Wow.
I think there might be just a bit of clarity as to where the money is actually coming from.
It's coming from terrestrial radio right now and background music. Those are the tariffs that we have established. Tariff 8 is now in appeal, only because we're supporting Resound on their appeal on that. We didn't like the rate. I don't know if anyone's aware of it. It's 1/10 of Sound Exchange's rate for paying out on streaming and online. So we're lobbying to get a better rate for Canadians.
Plus 365.
Yes. The reporting. And that's constant. Within every tariff, we are constantly reminding the Copyright Board that they need to start making it mandatory.
So is this including ACTRA? Anything that you did in ACTRA, like if you do national commercials and things like that?
No, we don't have TV. We're still working on those.
Strictly
Again,
through ACTRA. So if you have something that's owed from that,
right.
you have to contact
So yeah, so ACTRA would have that. But the neighboring rights, you can go to ACTRA RAPS or you come to MROC. So it's strictly for commercial radio, CBC, pay audio, satellite, and then background music and private copying right now. So
That's
it's essentially radio.
Just from the name of the work and things like that?
Yeah, what happens is the radio stations, they submit logs,
Right.
and then we receive those logs for every year. And what happens is we have a database where we upload the logs, and we have our musicians in there and their repertoire. And what happens is the system is constantly, so that once you sign up, once you enter your repertoire, every time we upload a new log, first we'll do a sweep of everything as far back as 1998. So if you've done a lot of work, that first check from MROC is going to be quite substantial in comparison comparison to the other ones. After that, what happens is, as you start adding repertoire, if you find something you've played on, you remembered, we'll do a sweep of that. But as it goes forward, it keeps on turning over. So your repertoire, your name, keeps on going through the logs. As soon as we update them and they create claims, then we claim that money from Resend and pay it to you. So once you enter it and we get all the performers on there, then we can start working. Even if they're not signed up, we can pay you your money. We just hold the share for that musician. So if you're signing up and you know there's other musicians that have played on these recordings, it's important for them to sign up too, so they get paid also.
What I never got really a straight answer was the, every Western democracy samples requires radio to report 365 days of programming. In Canada, we do 6, 7, 8 weeks of sampling. The Minister of Heritage gets involved, and the Copyright Act, the board gets involved. What was the rationale for refusing that? So we're the only country, except the U.S., in any Western democracies that don't report 365 days of programming, radio programming. But I never could find out what the rationale for refusing that was.
Well, every decision, I have no idea, but I did get the information for you from legal counsel from Resend, so I can go through that with you.
Oh, there is a rationale.
Well, they explain exactly what's happened.
Nothing happened.
Well, they said that there's some movement.
Oh, okay.
I can grab it if you want me to.
Yeah,
but it's quite
other
lengthy.
people might be interested.
Okay, sure.
Well, it's quite important because a lot of, especially independent artists, because it's almost prorated where the top tier artists are getting proportionally higher amount of money
I'm going to read
than the lower tier, because it's prorated. So Justin Bieber gets the big pile, and the little guys like some of us here maybe.
Right. Well, Justin Bieber might not, because he's owned by Americans, so.
Don't get reported. But if it was 365 days of programming, but every play of your track is recorded, then everything's fair.
Right. So let me read you, because I know you sent me those wonderful emails.
I sent you a flurry of emails.
They're lovely. I can't always get back, but I do read them, and sometimes I'm on the train and I'm getting calls. And,
I didn't want to put you on this one.
No. Well, it's wonderful because, these are things that, where we get the logs, we match them with the musicians. Our primary thing is to work with the musicians and get them paid. In terms of what's going on, that's why we have Resend. They're doing the licensing, they're taking care of the logging and things like that. It's such a big job in Neighbouring because you're dealing with session musicians and featured musicians, and there's a lot of work to be done as opposed to, songwriters and composers where you might have a couple. We're working at stuff that was recorded in the 70s where there's, Alice Cooper, who recorded in Toronto. He has 26 Toronto session players that all needed to get paid, and we paid that out. But that's a lot of work. We actually had to go to a gentleman that was doing Alice Cooper's biography and did all this extensive research, and that's how we found all these musicians. This is how we paid them out. Especially with the legacy artists, they're not necessarily out there. They're not playing. They've moved on maybe in their lives, but there's a money waiting for them. So we go to biographers, we go to producers, we go anywhere to find musicians to pay them. But let me, the correspondence I got, and I'll read it to you.
I think the Minister of Heritage at the time had a lot to do with it. I don't know who the current minister is.
Shelley Glover.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's
music. Okay, so I'm going to read it just so I don't. Music use reporting is addressed through the provisions of our tariffs rather than Copyright Act. With each hearing, Resend has pushed for increased music use reporting requirements. We now have 365-day reporting required under CBC tariff, and requested that reporting under the satellite radio tariff be increased to 365 days a week. And it's currently at 7 days per month. Pay audios, and they're hoping to increase that too. And with every time they go in to talk about the tariffs, it's part of what they're doing. Is they're constantly asking the copyright board to increase. With respect to commercial radio tariffs, previously only had to supply 14 days of logs per year. ReSound and other collectives pushed for increased reporting requirements 360 days in 2010. The board changed the tariff so that those stations that have the necessary reporting capabilities to provide 365-day sequential lists should do so, and for everyone else, requirements were increased from 14 days to 28 days. And it's still pending with the Copyright Board. And they pushed again for 365-day reporting from all stations, and this decision is still pending. ReSound purchases music use information from BDS to supplement the logs received from radio stations, so they can make the distributions accurate and representative as possible. So that was the response.
So it's pending.
It's pending.
The actual
it's a
act
constant.
hasn't been amended and passed
No,
through.
and they're doing it through the tariffs. You know,
Yeah.
they go in because they need to get a new tariff for every year. It's a different rate, so they're putting it in there. And they're pushing and they're pushing, but because of the BDS data, it supplements because BDS information is 365. Everything that's played, it's very.
Nielsen.
Sorry.
Nielsen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're using that to supplement those who are only reporting the 28 days.
So the ones that are doing the 28 days are the smaller
The point
stations.
is they're actively looking at it again. You know, it's tough. The Copyright Board.
Well, it's all
It
of
takes
them
a
now.
long time, but
It's all of them now.
yeah.
That
I thought she just read that the ones that were unable to provide
By
the
them,
data.
they're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
So there are some small stations that just don't have that.
They
They
can't.
just, like go to hell. Small stations.
But again, I mean,
Yeah.
they are working with trying to get the most accurate and do the best.
Well,
they
you'd
can.
think in this day of technology that 365 wouldn't be that tough.
It's a no-brainer, really. I mean, it's with technology today, digital technology, and even something else that really pisses me off is the radio's even playing MP3. It's not even CD quality. They're converting to MP3, which is a crummy, severely compressed, lousy audio format. And kids are wandering down the street with an iPod, MP3, and they're listening to music in a pair of earbuds. So that's the other argument I have about some of the radio stations. They ask for MP3s. I say no. I'll send you a WAV file.
Yeah.
But they're playing MP3.
Yeah.
So the quality's not even there.
Well, I mean, there's some small ones that I've heard rumors they use YouTube now to stream. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things going on with broadcasters. But I mean, the point is that they are working at it. Is something that they're it's a constant, and they're constantly lobbying with the Copyright Board, and it just takes a lot of time. They table things, they wait. Took years and years to get some of these tariffs established. So Copyright Board, it takes them a lot of time.
Well, making progress.
We are.
A little bit. It's slow, but at least we're trying to get there. And of course, they're working on it. Especially tariff, they didn't accept that, and they put that right into appeal. We're in full support of that and what they're doing to fight for that. So thank you for the question. I would, I knew that there was
Thanks
some.
for the answer.
Well, that's if I don't know, I will find out and get it right.
Julia,
Yes.
a lot of us, I think, have played on sessions where, we've gone into a studio with one by yourself or with a few other people, but you're aware that the session had many other musicians on it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at what point, when you've identified a song that there's some royalties going on, when did you decide to distribute the money if you're not sure you have all the players?
Well, we need it all to be, so there's a number of ways of doing it. A lot of it is sometimes if there is an agreement, for example, if there's a track and we have 4 keyboard players that say, no, I played, we'd go to the producer. The producer would say, this is the performance we added. And we would use that as a confirmation. The other thing we do, if it's unclear and there isn't any contracts, there isn't any liner notes or anything, it's a collective. So all the musicians that played on there, they all agree that, Joe played the keys, that's, yes. And so sometimes it's just almost a vote, like, was this the keyboard player? Yes, that's his performance. So
That's another wrinkle. What I'm asking is, if you don't know who all the other players are, you won't pay out money until you have a complete list.
What happens is the split for the recordings is 20% goes to the session players, 80% to the feature performers. If we have a track and we know all the session players on there, but we're not quite sure, let's say that we have all the features, we can pay up that 20%, no problem. So they call it a class. So it's either non-feature or feature. We know all the features.
I think the situation is the opposite. We know who all the featured artists are, but we're not sure who all the session players are.
Session players are. Well, yes, but we always try and get 100% of it, and that's why we're constantly.
So I guess what I'm saying then is, so you don't let out the money until you're sure you have.
And it's right.
Yeah.
So what we do is, if we don't have something concrete, and to say some of the musicians are not arguing, no, he never played, and he's saying yes, and no, then we go to a third and a fourth party that was in the recording studio, record labels, whatever, until we have an agreement on the lineup. Because the last thing we want to do is put anyone into recoup. We've paid incorrectly, or we've missed someone.
Right.
Because then you have to go back and you're going to miss checks and stuff until that person catches up.
Right. Okay, thank you.
That's why it's really important that she said as soon as you leave a session for these young people.
Even if it's going to take 2 years to turn around, before they've released it, promoted it, before radio even catches on, or if it does, but you never know. It may show up somewhere. And definitely any music you've played on. We had a musician that he scored for, he wrote music for a children's television station, Treehouse, and said, well, we don't collect for TV and movies. So we said, well, let's just throw the repertoire in. Let's have it on record, because we never know. The tariffs might come through. We may have something. And as it turned out, they had created a sound recording for the children's television station, and it was being aired on Galaxy, and he ended up getting money. So it's really important, anything you've played on. You may think it's not significant. You may think there's no money, but you'll never know unless you sign up and submit your music.
So sessions for television theme work or radio are included?
We don't collect off of TV or film. However, someone created a sound recording that was then aired on pay audio or on the radio. That generated income because it was turned into a sound recording, even though it was taken off the television show.
And very often you never know what to do.
Yeah.
Once you've recorded it, you don't know that sitting in the studio somewhere, some guy said, hey, let's just do a recording of this. You just don't know unless somebody hears it.
But you never know, like I said, and I used to always say this at Factor, there was always people that said, well, I'll never, qualify for a grant or a loan or anything. Well, you don't know unless you go in there. It could be, and especially with the younger musicians or even whoever's recording, the minute you get in the studio and you come out and it's fresh in your mind what's going on, sign up. It may take a couple of years before, radio generates airplay on it and then revenue starts. But at least it's in there and you don't have to think about it, and you just might get a check one day.
70s might be a bit tough.
PayPal transfer.
There was a question over here.
How frequently do you pay out?
We send out payments quarterly. However, it really depends. Like, for example, if you're an artist that's only getting CBC radio play, once we've caught up with all your retroactive payments and things like that, you may not get a check every distribution because the logs come in once a year. So you'll see if it's multiple, like if you're played all over, and congratulations, all types of radio, then you'll probably get one every 3 months or so. However, so it really depends on when it's played, and also the international. Well, the international collective, whenever they come through, we pay them out.
Thank you.
Hi.
I apologize if you've already addressed this.
No,
but
no.
What is the cost to sign up?
There's no cost.
There's no cost.
There's no cost. The only thing we do is we take a 15% administrative fee off of royalties that come through. International royalties at this point, we're not collecting any. We're not taking any administrative off of that. So we don't take any money off of that. And that's unique to MROC. That's what we do. So I don't know about the other collectives, but we don't charge anything on, or we don't take anything off of international.
So, when you fill up the
you just have to fill out the first form. What we'll do is we'll put you in the
But you can put as much information as you have. You don't have to have a form.
You don't, no, of course not. Whatever you can remember, and as you remember, as you come across things, and the thing is, if you've been playing, like I said, we put your name in the database, you may pop up on other tracks. and we'll confirm that for you. What we'll do is we'll generate a report because we have to make sure it's you, first of all, and then we'll associate that to your ID. So what'll happen is when you the most important thing is to sign up first, and then you can email us or you can send the information. Because what we'll do is we'll get back to you, and you'll have an ID created for you and an online account created for you. And you can upload whatever, an Excel sheet or liner notes or whatever it is that you have.
Marge has a question.
So you said it's good for any local in any province of Canada?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we were told at that point, at that time, that there were no royalties for this recording, are we still admissible?
Oh, of course. Well, if you're saying like at that time if there was no royalties, it's good to always. It may generate some money, but we can look if you're already signed up. We can look into your account and see.
Well, in the fact that since the whole orchestra was hired, we said, well, it's a one-time contract.
Oh, okay, yes, and some session musicians have asked that question too, that they were given a fee, they were paid for the session or sessions. That has nothing to do. This is a new. It's just royalties. You can be paid for your time as an artist, but these are royalties that are owned because everyone is listening to your performance on the radio, out in the store and stuff, and so now you're entitled to revenue for that.
If it's still on the shelf somewhere, then there's no money to be done.
Well, you never know, but it's good, and especially if you are. We do have someone specifically, and she's works also with the TSO and things, so she's our expert on symphonies and orchestras, so I can put you in touch with her.
Do you collect for Air Canada in-flight music?
No.
Oh.
Wait, unless that's pay audio. That's a great question.
Because I think I'm on there. Air Canada in-flight radio through it was a license through Music X-Ray.
Okay, I could.
I don't know.
They're paying a license, then it
if you
would probably come as public performance, but I can look.
But it's actually
it's
actually a license.
Yeah, if it's a license, it's a great question. I will get back to you on that one.
Any more questions? Has anybody here signed up for MROC?
I have a question. Does this cover jingles at all?
Not yet. No.
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
Not yet. I always say not yet because we never know. We're trying to get as much as we can. TV and film, we don't have anything. Live performance, we don't have anything
TV,
yet.
film, and video.
And video. There's no tariffs on up. There's also live music, so we don't have them yet, but you never know.
Aren't we working on the video right now? Has anybody here? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to ask. I did a live performance that was carried across Canada on one of those TSN or whatever it is. Now, is that should that
on
be
on TSN?
Like I sang one song and it was broadcast nationwide in a live performance. Like a fundraiser.
If it's turned into a sound recording, then yes. But if it's only aired on TV, they don't consider that at this point a sound recording on TV. So if it's on TV, like if it was played on the radio, like the radio strictly radio, and the Galaxy stations on your TV, satellite, CBC. And if it's played, like for example, if we were down here, we had a DJ, the church would be except for churches. Sorry, if this was a wedding hall, they don't have to pay. They would have to pay into a license to resell. They would have to get a license to play recorded music in their establishment.
I have a friend who had a song on CBC radio every morning for many years, but they only used 30 seconds of it. Does that count for royalties?
It could. I believe it would be. Yeah, it should.
It should.
They're still playing it. You can still hear it.
No, not anymore, but they did for many years.
I travel a lot with SoCan, and they call us the royalty couple. It's always me with some guy from SoCan. And I came up with this, traveling from Saskatoon to Regina to Edmonton, we were buses and planes and things, and I kept on saying the acoustic contribution a musician makes, and they love it, and they use this in the West thing. So it's the acoustic, like whether it's a hand clap, a whisper, whatever, if you can hear it, it's on a recording or it's broadcast. It's money, and if it's your hands doing it, then you created that performance.
But there's no restriction in terms of the length of the recording that you
No.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I would say
Maybe
if
that's
it's
something we're finding
it
out.
should be there, yeah. I don't think they look at the time. I don't think they would throw that into junk. With the logs, you know, they're talking in commercials and stuff. I couldn't see that.
Was this on the radio? On CBC radio?
Yeah, national radio every morning.
Well, then they look at those things very, very careful. Every 30 seconds is important to them. So
it would be there.
Well, as an example, a talk radio show, like CFRA's talk, but they use tunes here and there. Do they pay royalties when they use 30 seconds of a tune or 45 seconds?
On talk radio?
I think it's the same as a club. If they've got a TV running in their club, they have to pay SOCAN, right? SOCAN gets paid whether they have music in there or not, like live music. So I would imagine talk radio is paying something for music because they're using it all the time.
They use it.
Yeah. But it's another good...
It's another one, yeah, they're using pieces to introduce things, absolutely.
Has anybody here signed up for MROC before? Yeah. Has anybody here received money from MROC?
I don't remember filling anything out or mailing it in, but
what happens if you're part of a local, and that's the other thing, because for years and years it was automatic when you became a member, you just kind of ticked off the box for your membership.
How long ago, though? Because I think he joined the local before.
But if somebody else included me and he was also on this record, maybe that's
how it was, yeah.
So you could check his name?
Yeah, I will, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to sign up again if I have to.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you've signed up and you signed up a long time ago, and especially when I'm doing this with the locals and things like that, fill out that application or the thing, just so we have your most up-to-date emails, telephone numbers, mailing address for the checks, because we get a lot of them sent back and we have to start searching and calling up the Ottawa local and TMA in Toronto and all over Vancouver.
And we tell you we don't have them either. It's
well,
hard.
No, there's some that, you know, we have a lot of musicians that, you know.
We have a question back there.
You know, I received something in the mail, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, saying fill out this form and you may be owed royalties. I don't know if it was MROC or not, I don't know. Anyway, I filled it out, I sent the card, and I didn't think anything of it, just so you all know. And I don't know, 3-4 months later, you know, I got like 30 checks. You know, or, you know, 114.
What organization was that?
Was that something else?
What organization was that?
You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I just sent it out. I said, what have I got to lose? So, but I think I re-registered anyway, like you said, new information, and there may be new things. Maybe this is something entirely different. I don't know.
Were those American checks, do you remember?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were American.
I think that had something to do, David and I were just talking about that with the trust fund. Didn't people
that could be. Yes,
get checks a couple of years ago from, yeah.
So this is something different.
This is.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah, this is.
So how long has the money been being collected, or when did the legislation change, or how long?
No, it was established in 1998.
You guys were
Neighbouring Rights in Canada overall. So, and private property. So it was all established, and that's why there's 3 collectives, because the 3 unions, the Actors Union in Quebec, ACTRA, and the AFM or CFM were the 3 unions that lobbied for neighbouring rights in Canada. And when it was established, they were allowed to have the collectives with it set up there.
And that's when the money.
And that's when the money, yeah. So therefore, when you sign up and you've never signed up before, we can go as far back as 1998. We have all the logs from 1998. So once we put it in our, we have we have a new database, and it's absolutely wonderful. And it was built by companies that work specifically in neighboring rights. So It's got all the bells and whistles, so we just put in your repertoire and it goes right through back to 98 and generates a payment for you.
So why no collection from the television stuff?
Sorry?
Why no collection from the
Because the
TV
Copyright
stuff?
Board hasn't given us the tariff. So we keep on asking, and they
The CFM is lobbying really hard on that.
That would be...
That would be
it would be great, and eventually it'll come through. I mean, it took many years of lobbying through the unions to get neighboring rights set up in Canada to begin with. You know, and I mean, just it's only been since 1990.
Because I'm just thinking, if you have like an organization like YouTube, and they pick up your songs and they're playing, you know, you see the hits.
Well, that's streaming.
On your song, you got 30,000 hits on your song.
Yeah.
That's being played over the air.
Right.
So
I mean,
getting
yeah.
that money? Nobody.
Well, that's streaming. You know, and we do have the tariff. It's just a really not a great rate. We're not happy with the rate. It's you know,
You
what
need
is it?
a billion plays.
It's a tenth of, you need a billion.
A little bit of money,
You know, it's
we
something
don't pay
like
very much.
a million plays will get you $10 or something.
Yeah,
and I may be right, wrong. So
Yeah.
my apology, but it's a pretty.
It's a start.
It's a start.
That many hits on your video, you should have some advertising on that. That's
Yeah.
how you make money.
Right.
I hate advertising. I always click the off.
Skip ad.
It would be great if those who haven't signed up for MROC could do it tonight. First of all, Julie will be able to take it back to Toronto. But just one thing that you should know, that we have the CFM across Canada and all the locals have an agreement now with MROC, and we're going to work really diligently to make sure young members coming into the CFM have sign up for neighboring rights. So they will again be on our application forms. So when a young person automatically comes in, we'll run them through the routine of what it is to join the CFM, but then we'll also mention MROC and if they're going to be recording. But this group seems to a little bit have fallen through the cracks because we had taken it off the forms, and I can't remember why they came off, but anyway, they did. And so now they're going to be going back on. So for this group of people, it would be nice if you did get signed up and you could begin sending information to MROC, and they could look for your work.
So you can collect prior to 1998?
No, it's as far back as the logs, the radio logs, and all the information we have to look for your repertoire starts from 98. However, if you've recorded anything, it doesn't have to, the recordings can be as far back as 50 years copyright. We want all those recordings. So if you've been recording, you know, for years and years, and your career goes as far back as 40 years, we want to see everything.
But you would only get paid for things from 98 on.
Right, 98 on. But that music, of course, would have gotten, or could possibly have gotten airplay, even if it's 50 years old.
Does it have anything to do with how many were sold?
No.
Of any copy or anything?
That would fall into private copying. Again, it's a mix of airplay and album sales for private copying. But again, it just, yeah.
Do you want us to sign up even if we can't put a single recording on there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll get back to you. What'll happen is we'll take the sheets there and we'll feed them into our system. It'll generate an artist ID and a login for you. So what you can do is you can yourself, if you've been recording to SOCAN, or if you haven't, some musicians have everything tracked and logged, doesn't matter what format it's in, whatever you have. We can even start with what you're reporting to SOCAN, because if you're getting money from SOCAN, chances are, because it's a neighboring to some of their tariffs, that there might be money waiting for you from MROC based on
I got a
those.
little bit from SOCAN, but I don't know what it was for.
If it's they don't give you a rundown
of my
of
bank account. No,
Oh.
But
Well, you know what it's worth? Well,
it was peanuts.
we have your repertoire now, so.
Pardon?
We have your repertoire now.
Yeah. Well, you had it. What I did was the last album I registered with Sound Exchange and Nielsen BDS, and then when this came up, I checked my file, and I didn't register the last album, but you have it now.
Yeah. So we'll be able to see. But yes, yes.
I personally belong to another organization.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
There you go.
I belong to another organization in the country, exactly the same as MROC, is it gonna be any kind of
You can only sign up to one collective. So if you're already signed up to Artisti or Arcturax, you cannot sign up to MROC. Has to be one or the other. But as long as you're signed up somewhere, that's the most important thing, is that you're signed up and you're getting your neighboring rights. So.
But if MROC is not covering my other place where I sign up, like in Chile.
So are you so you're signed up to a collective in Chile?
Yeah.
Okay, then yes. What would happen is we would look through, so when you do sign up, we can carve out the territories. If you are already signed up with a collective somewhere else, or you're already signed up with Sound Exchange, we'll carve that out of the mandate, out of your thing. So what we would do is, if we do have an agreement with Chile, we would make sure that we don't try and claim on your behalf, because that would create a conflict and that would hold up your payments. So also, if you're signed up in any other territory for neighboring rights, we need to know, because what will happen is we will send our stuff over and start claiming from another country, and they'll say, wait, we've got them signed up, and that will cause a conflict, and we'll have to go back, so it might delay your money. So if you have already signed up with Sound Exchange, for example, or something, you can keep that assignment the way it is, because if it's generating income, you don't want to stop. Yes?
So any European albums that I, say, performed on, you wouldn't want to see those?
Yes, we would. Yes, they're all eligible. Anything recorded in Canada
in Europe.
And Europe. It's part of the Rome Convention. We're all one big, so it's eligible for neighboring rights.
Is it possible they would have their own organization doing this?
Only if you've signed up. You have to give permission for them to collect.
Chances are you haven't.
Right?
Yeah, you're probably okay. But even if you sign up tonight, she'll find out.
Yeah, I'll know.
So it's better to be safe than sorry.
Or it'll come back as a conflict. But what I generally do is I will just say, no, my mistake. Go ahead, just to free it up. You know.
And is it on a per session basis or on a per track basis?
Per track.
I don't know about the rest of the musicians here, but I probably don't know 1% of the tracks that I've worked on by title, right? You see a chart.
Yeah.
You know. She can send you a copy of the album, though.
But if you're working with the
oh, they should.
Well,
they should.
Often they
But there's
you mean the artist before that?
Well, the main artist, they should, if you're a session guy, once the album is completed, I mean, it's only common courtesy to send you a copy.
It doesn't happen.
But if you
just let Julia finish this.
If you've signed if you've probably signed a sound recording contract, there must, I'm not sure.
So some of the information would help you to maybe.
Well, the locals have the sound recording contract, no?
But a lot of them are not. We don't have recording contracts for them.
Oh.
Many sessions in the past have been done without contracts. But this covers that anyway. You don't have to, I mean, MROC doesn't need a contract. That's why this call went out to members and non-members, right?
You don't need a contract, but if you happen to have one,
Correct.
there's information for us, little clues that would give us. The pension fund has also information. Point is, you can, if you know the artist you played for, we can get it done. I've got some pretty, the great thing about the office is we have people that have library, they're trained librarians. They love data, they love numbers, and they search and have all these great little databases. They can find things out. They're amazing. So, put them to work.
But are you thinking of the country sessions and so on and so forth?
Pardon me?
Are you thinking of the country sessions?
Well, I mean, most of the sessions,
yeah.
like even back in the days in Montreal, you go in, you work on 3-4 tracks. Yeah. You don't even know what the titles are.
Yeah, there may have been contracts, but even if they aren't, like she said, you find the name of the artist that you worked for, and all they need is a clue.
We just need a clue, and then we can look and say, we can look through their discography and see if you're named on anything anywhere. And then if we find that album where your name is, they'll say, hey, remember, you can listen to it and let us know if that's me.
The studio should also have a session list.
Yeah, so absolutely.
The artist and the studio as well.
Also, if you remember anything that you can remember. That's why we say, don't all of a sudden say, well, I'm not even going to I can't remember.
Right.
Just whatever you have, and like you said, if you have an artist and you know what year it was, we'll look through the discography as close to it and see if you're named there.
Right.
If not, then we'll find the producer and ask them.
Okay.
We can. It's part of what we do.
Sorry, it's not clear to me, the prior to 1998, how do you get paid then?
You don't.
You won't get paid?
No.
So what's the 50 years back you might?
What that means is if you played on a recording, so for example, if you're a musician that's played on recordings as far back as 50 years,
right.
Like there's oldie stations, there's Galaxy Radio that plays, you know, or satellite radio that has all these different types of genres or subgenres, and they're playing music that might have been recorded before 1998. So what happens is I just always try and let people know that, because everyone automatically gets the year 98, so they start only submitting music they've recorded on since 1998. And really we're looking for music as far back. If it's, you know, if it's not in public domain, yeah, and you've played on it, doesn't matter what year, you've played on this music.
It's public domain now.
I believe it's 50 years.
Still, is it 50 years?
Yeah. The United States is 75.
So those satellite radios are keeping logs as well?
Yeah,
of what
they have to
play?
report, of course. You gotta pay for using music.
Fill out the registration form tonight or do it tomorrow online.
Or you can do it online, whatever's better for you. Some people are, you know, I just brought it just to give everyone an idea of what we're looking for, and in case you wanted to sign up. But if you're comfortable, because right away, what we'll do is you'll get your membership set up, or you know, your logins and things like that. You can start uploading repertoire if you choose, or whatever you need.